Welcome in, Braves Today, bravestoday.com. It is all brought to you by Active Wealth Management. Go to annuity360.net for your free book. Make sure you tell Ford we said hello. He's Lindsay Crosby. I'm Ben Taylor. Long time no see, buddy.
I know, right? You had such a great time with Johnny Venters. You just didn't need me anymore.
he was absolutely awesome. So hopefully the fans enjoyed that, as I appreciate the comments. And I will say I do love how everybody spells his name wrong. I did that included in one of the texts that I'd sent, as it is a weird first spelling, but still, we had a good time. However, one of the things we talked about was pitching, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But I need everybody right now to pump the brakes, because all of a sudden Ohtani has released some sort of statement through his agent or through the media, or his agent through the media, which is very smart to do, by the way, if he did that. And it's saying that he is showing a lot of interest in the Braves. Lindsay, you and I have had this discussion. That's fantastic. He has a lot of interest in the Braves. The Braves don't have a big enough checkbook right now in order to make that happen.
Yeah, the Braves have kind of admitted that their focus is pitching for 2024. That is like the one thing that Shohei Ohtani cannot give you in 2024. Like literally, his elbow was put back together by a surgeon. So he cannot give you that. Now, if you are a free agent in MLB right now, it is in your best interest to leave as many things on the table as possible. We have heard that Ohtani is interested in Atlanta. We have heard that Ohtani is open to a shorter deal at an absurdly high AAV, and that's not me saying absurdly high. That's the quote that came out. And if you think about it, this makes sense, right? Because if the goal is to get as much money as possible, you want to have as many teams as possible interested and available. And so, like, it makes total sense that you would hear things like that. In reality, I don't think Atlanta goes to the financial amount required to sign Shohei, simply because you do have such a focus on pitching. You do have to figure out these other things to do, and it's just not feasible to do both of these, like to do both things. Yes, payroll is going to grow, but not that much.
Yeah, he literally would be all that you could sign. That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Nobody else. I mean, that's
story's over.
And you're getting 50% of the player that he is, because they did say that he's going to be able to play even with the surgery. He's going to be able to hit. He can DH. They don't want him throwing at all. So that also addresses a DH issue, where you got some numbers on the line for the Braves who are paying guys to be a DH, because Ozuna is a DH. He's not a platoon left fielder guy.
Yeah. On that note too, so Marcell Ozuna is probably going to end up being your left fielder in that scenario, because you still have him. And for everybody who says trade Marcell Ozuna for starting pitching, I want to address that real quick, because it's kind of bugged me a little bit, and I want to clarify that. Okay, so Marcell Ozuna has $16 million left on his deal in 2024, and then he can go to free agency, or you have a club option for 2025. Who is going to sign a 1-year designated hitter who's in his 30s? A contending team, right? If Atlanta wants high-quality starting pitching, why would a contending team give up a high-quality starting pitcher if they are contending? Like, the trade fits don't make sense.
Right.
No team is going to give you what you want in a trade for Marcell Ozuna, because they need the guy they would give you to compete with Marcell Ozuna. So it's not going to happen. If Atlanta ships him out, it's going to be some sort of salary dump kind of deal, or it's going to be a scenario where Atlanta's taken a shot on a backup outfielder, a guy who is a prospect maybe, or something where they value the left fielder more than that current team does. Maybe something like that happens, but you're not going to trade him for a starting pitcher. Stop saying it, people.
The other, since you mentioned left field, we'll stay with that, is it seems to be more and more, concrete that Grissom could be a platoon left fielder or be the left fielder moving forward, because we were saying use him if you're going to use him to try to get as much as you can off of him, whether it be a starter, whether it be a middle reliever, some sort of pitching, something of that nature, or as you said before, maybe a pitcher and a prospect, something with another team. However, according to the Braves, they kind of like the idea of still sticking. they see something in him from the plate or from the base paths or from something where they do not want to release him and send his talent somewhere else that may come back and bite him.
I mean, okay, so he's a really good athlete. Like Alex Anthopoulos said, he's a very good athlete. And Atlanta has done this in the past where they sent guys out to left field for a season or whatever. Mm-hmm. Austin Riley did it. Chipper Jones did it. Now, that makes me a little bit nervous because neither one of those guys was that good in the outfield, but they did it. And I think the big thing for Vaughn is his major league numbers. The power performance was, fine. I don't think he hit any home runs in this 20-something games in 23. But in the minors, in Gwinnett, his slash line was 330, 419, 501. It was a lot of doubles power, more so than home run power. Mm-hmm. But the kid can hit. Even in his 40-something games, filling in for Ozzie Albies in 22, he batted 291. I mean, the kid can hit. And he's a really good athlete. The biggest thing to me is the money it saves you, right? You don't Eddie Rosario would have been $9 million. It's a lot cheaper to send Vaughn out there, deal with some of the growing pains. He has a chance to develop into a very good defender. Who knows? And repurpose that money towards going out and going above that $22 million sort of self-imposed limit to get a quality frontline starter, hopefully one you can keep for multiple years.
Yeah, and when people talk, you mentioned this year, the 2023. First off, 20 games. That's it, 20 plus games, and he didn't have a chance to really get into a groove because everybody goes, well, he didn't hit. And look at the end of the season, he even struck out with the bat sitting on his shoulder. You can't take that small sample size because when you look at those minor league numbers, as you just said, you're talking great numbers in the minors, and it just didn't translate and I've said that about everybody. That was one of Pilar said the same thing coming off the bench. It's tough to get into a groove when you're not playing every day. Mm-hmm. And so that may be something that they look at doing with Ozuna being the DH and sticking Grissom out there and left and being more of an everyday player instead of a platoon player. So I personally, because of the money and because of the potential and because of his minor league numbers last year, I don't have an issue with it. But there are a lot of fans that are not happy with hanging on to Grissom.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing, they could still move him. They could still move him in a trade for a controllable starter, but it's something where we haven't moved him to the outfield yet because we wanted to preserve some trade value. But at the same time, not every team is as dumb as Oakland is. Nothing personal, Oakland, but they've seen how he's played at the major league level, and they've seen that okay, maybe he's not necessarily as good of a defender as we think or hope he is. I mean, it's at a certain point, it's kind of hard to get one over on teams. And I would guess if he ends up not being moved, it's because he doesn't go as far in a trade package as we were hoping, or we can't quite get the right value for him. Plus, I mean, the clubhouse likes him. He does really well with the team, and
he does.
All of that chemistry stuff that matters a lot more in Atlanta than it does a lot of other places. They value clubhouse fit, clubhouse chemistry, and we know that he does really well with everybody in that clubhouse and in that room. So that it's entirely possible it's something where his off the field value is much higher to Atlanta than it is to anywhere else.
And we'll get to pitching momentarily as it's brought to you by Active Wealth Management. Go to annuity360.net for your free book. Be sure to tell Ford we said hello. Active Wealth Management, multiple offices in Alpharetta, Cartersville, Kennesaw, Midtown. Opened that office this past year, headquarters off exit 12 in Georgia 400. They are close to home. Let them know that all of us at Braves Today sent you in that direction. Again, it's annuity360.net. Submit that contact information. You get your complimentary copy of Ford Stokes' book, an incredible opportunity to learn more about protecting and growing your hard-earned wealth. Also, they specialize in helping pre-retirees and retirees that are ready to invest. Again, annuity360.net for your free book. Pitching. Lindsay, this is something where you and I have already done a pod on this one time talking about Aaron Nola. This is becoming more and more like a scenario that the Braves could go down, and the reason being is because you said it just a moment ago. It's been talked about by AA. It's been written about by writers all around Atlanta. Atlanta is in the market for a pitcher.
Yeah, the consensus around baseball amongst the media and things like that, people who maybe don't hear anything from Atlanta's front office because they don't leak, but from player agents and other people around is that the Braves are going to come out of free agency with a frontline starter. The question obviously is who. That's not necessarily been decided yet, but the consensus around baseball is Atlanta will not be denied. They are going to go out and get somebody. And to that point, there's been more reporting about they're going to go past that $22 million limit. And it's not a hard cap. Josh Donaldson got $23 million when he was here. It's just the current roster, nobody is making more than $22 million or projects to over the life of their extensions. Aaron Nola's been thrown around a lot, and the reason for that is he worked with Rick Kranitz when Kranitz was a coach in Philadelphia. So they have a pre-existing relationship, and apparently Kranitz has kind of signed off on, yes, what Nola could do if you were to bring him into Atlanta. So I like the idea of Atlanta bringing in somebody. If you're looking at that tier 1, tier 2 of Aaron Nola, Blake Snell, Sonny Gray, I think I'd probably rather have Nola simply for the consistency. I mean, he's taken the ball 30 plus times at just about every single year he's been up in the majors. And that's the big thing Atlanta's been missing, especially this year, was health and quality in the rotation. So I'd rather have Nola than Snell or Gray. But the word on the street is Atlanta's going to come out with somebody. And then that means your 24 rotation, if it's Nola, is Strider, Fried, Nola, Morton, and then I don't think it matters who number 5 is. It could be you or me.
Yeah,
for all it matters. If that's your first 4, it doesn't matter who's your number 5.
Let me tell you who number 5 is going to be. It's back when I was in college and going to Braves games on Wednesday nights because it was dollar tickets. We're going to see a lot of Wednesday nights of Kevin Millwood. That's how I got to know who that was. I swear to you, he pitched every friggin' Wednesday night every time I went to Atlanta. That's all. And then he became a starter. But everybody was like, we just don't know what we're getting out of this guy. I was like, I do. I've seen him pitch at least 30 times already in the last 2 seasons on a Wednesday night. So.
When I was a kid, I remember my grandparents talking about the rotation at that time was Spawn and Sane and Pray for Rain. Like that's what you were going for. And so Atlanta's determined that's not going to happen. They're going to have multiple options here. And then I think there's a possibility based on how the money turns out, if Atlanta is willing to turn on the money cannon for Aaron Nola or whoever it is, that you might be able to then, if you're willing to spend, re-sign Max Fried as well and have a big 3 at the top of your rotation after 2024. And that would be really exciting for me as well.
Well, and who knows, you heard on the previous pods talking with Johnny Venters, he talked about how much he loved Charlie Morton and came up with him, and he said the guy could pitch another 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, he may have to go to the bullpen in order to do that. Because I don't know if that's a starting gig, but he just said he is a freak of nature. And I think that's interesting that this next year you get all those guys. If Nola ends, and if it's not Nola, even if it's another big name, you still get those guys, like you said, a 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you kept everybody bragged about how, hey, let's see the young guys come up from, bounce back and forth between the minors and well, they'll be able to do that with that fifth starter. And you'll get to see a lot of young arms because, as you just said, I don't think it matters who you throw on that 5th day. There's a chance you could go basically 4 out of every 5 games you play as a win with what Atlanta has moving forward. Before we get out of here, it was announced, it's a story on Braves Today that you wrote already, is Manfred has seen the error of his ways, and he has decided to give a gift back to Atlanta. I personally think it's a day late and a dollar short. I'm still upset about it. And the reason I'm upset about it, nothing to do with politics. I think it absolutely killed the small businesses around Atlanta that would have made millions of dollars during that weekend. But the All-Star game is headed back to Atlanta.
Yeah, Atlanta's getting the 2025 All-Star game. The team has obviously since confirmed that and everything. So that'll be the Battery Atlanta. That is everything that comes along with it. So it's not just the All-Star game. It's the Home Run Derby, the Celebrity Softball game, the MLB Draft will be there, everything else that comes along with All-Star Weekend. But 2025 in Atlanta, going to be a really exciting time. And I'm glad that they've kind of righted this wrong, so to speak, by bringing it back to Atlanta.
It was an interesting nugget, as you had a quote from Manfred in the story that he said he still hears from people that whether they're pro, hey, yeah, you did the right thing and moved it, or anti, but the Atlanta All-Star game still gets brought up to him on not a daily basis, but basically every once in a while, somebody loves to stick that little needle in him.
Yeah, I mean, it was a big decision. I mean, they awarded that 2-something years before it happened, and then in April of the season when it was going to happen, which is late July, they moved it and had to get everything redone. The planning on those things is usually multiple years, and they moved it that suddenly, and so it was a big deal to move it. It's a big deal to bring it back, and it's Atlanta's first All-Star game since 2000, so it's gonna be really exciting to have the best of the best in Atlanta show off this new ballpark, the Battery Atlanta, which has become the standard for ballpark construction, not just in MLB but all across major sports in America now. I'd be excited to show all this off to a national audience.
He's Lindsay Crosby. I'm Ben Taylor. It's all been brought to you by Active Wealth Management. Go to annuity360.net for your free book. Tell Ford we said hello. Lindsay, as always, I greatly appreciate your time, sir.
Thanks for having me.